edition of the Storm Cellar. Brad is back from vacation. Ray never left, but I think he took the week off anyway.
Yeah,
Is that true?
I
Did
did,
you
and
not record all by
I
yourself for an hour to
yeah,
hear yourself talk?
no one wants to hear me talking for at length. I mean, yeah, this is a two-man operation, and it certainly sounds better. It's more fun sitting in the storm cellar alone. That's not fun.
Yeah, I don't drink, but I guess if you had a bunch of storm brews, or I mean, in
There
my
you
place,
go.
if I had like hockey and tacos or something, it'd be worth it. But
There you go. But I can tell you that I certainly missed the conversation. I was glad that you were enjoying your holiday and it was great and a great vacation, but man, I was excited for this one because we got
same here.
a lot to talk about. There's a
There
lot that's
is.
happened for sure. So, um, let's dive into it. You want to let's start with it's April now. Let's take a look back at March. Um, Interesting record in March. What fire it at us here.
So we ended up going like 8-4-4 in March, which I feel like we should have won fewer games than that. Looking back, 'cause I feel like we were all worried about getting beaten by backup goalies once again, right? Making backup goalies look like Vesna candidates and not scoring. But when I look at the month, it's actually not that bad in terms. I mean, all the games we lost, right? Detroit, Carolina, 4-3 in overtime. Uh, Toronto 3-2, Washington 4-3 in a shootout. Uh, 4-3 Dallas shootout. I mean, they were all most of the games we lost were close, right? Those, I mean, obviously, when you have 4 OT, you're only losing by one. But and those could have we could have went 12-4 just as easily as 8-4-4 because the team played really well, and the pucks just no puck luck.
Yeah, that was the thing, and uh, it's always at your own risk when you go to social media to gauge the reaction to how the team's playing because it's all over the map. And there was a lot of concern about the failing to score and as you said, making backup goaltenders look like Vezina candidates. Um, but you know what's uh, but you know what the thing is that they dominated the play. And when I say like in every aspect except for on the score sheet. Now, people are going to say, Raymond, that's where you need to dominate most. Yeah, we
It
would
is a
much
fair point.
rather, yeah, we would much rather, not dominate the play with all of these shots and still win the game. Like that's what we'd rather. Of course, I'd rather have the wins too. But you've got to look at this in the long term of things. And I'm thinking if we're playing like this and maintain this type of play, this dominating play, this aggressive forecheck, this if we keep that going, that's just a train you ride right into the playoffs. And I'm telling you, when you look at those games, there's not a single team in the NHL that I wouldn't have Carolina as the favorite playing that style of game in a 7-game series. We
I'm
play a 7
I'm
game
with you.
series like that, the Canes are the better team. They just are. And it's weird because Vegas odds right now have us as it's 10-1 still, and that's ridiculous. It should be better. I mean, the odds that's just double digit odds is not right.
It feels weird to me. And I read a great article, and I believe it was from the Athletic. I don't recall about Florida plays a similar game to the Canes, but they're not the complete team that the Canes are. Florida looks like a team ripe for a beat in a 7-game series. And I look at them and I go, they're going to be tough. That goal differential is huge.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't disagree with the article because I go, are they as good on the defensive goaltending side of the ice? And they're not.
No.
So in my mind, it's a two. Anything can happen in the NHL playoffs. We all know that. You see weird stuff happen, and teams go out looking at the
100%.
Leafs last year in Montreal making that run that they shouldn't have made.
No, yeah, no question.
But if I'm putting down a cold hard cash, it's Hurricanes Avs in the final, and that's really close to call. I think the Hurricanes have an edge because of the goaltending tandem of Ronta and Anderson.
Yes.
And that's one reason I pushed for us to make a trade at the trade deadline, was not because we won't have more opportunities, because this team is young and built for success the next few years.
Yeah.
We have an honest, with Shesterkin dropping off the pay some, Frederick Anderson, I think, is now the front runner for the Vesna. If he's not, he should be. And then you have Ronta, who's playing lights out, would be a number one goalie on half the teams in the league. And that, to me, is the difference between the Hurricanes and everybody else. Because
Yeah.
although Colorado has Kemper, I believe,
Yep.
but then it's a drop off, right? And with the Hurricanes, if you say we're putting in Ronta instead of Anderson, I don't feel that that's a drop off.
And I'll tell you something, the Avs have their own concerns right now in the West with a team very close to me geographically in the Flames. And
Tough teams.
man, that they are playing some outstanding hockey. And the Avs Flames game this week was awesome to watch. It was like there is some talent on those squads, and the skating and the back and forth, and Markstrom in net for the Flames. I mean, you know what? They ended up with the victory. The Avs did in Calgary, but damn, it was an entertaining game. When I look back at this month, the hardest part about this month really wasn't, the wins, the losses, and so forth. It was the injury. And Jasperi Kotkaniemi, um, in a game that was long done,
Long, long,
long,
long
long
done.
done. It was like, and knowing, okay, so the Capitals, um, there's certainly there's certainly the rivalry there, and I most assuredly didn't appreciate getting spanked the way they did in their barn. Like, and they were made to look like awful men playing with boys. Like, that was how dominating that performance was. And didn't Lars Eller, uh I mean, I don't even know where to start here as far as, like, we always say you play your full 60 minutes, right? That's what we say. You play your full 60 minutes, but there's inherent understanding that when the game is well done in the final few seconds, I mean, it happens in basketball. When the game's in hand, they'll just dribble it out. No one's fighting for the ball or another steal or whatever. The game's over. They'll dribble it out, right? Lars Eller is skating by after a opportunity to score by the Hurricanes in those last few seconds, and catches Kotkaniemi with his head down and drills him. And when he drills him, uh, he, it, KK's knee kind of semi buckles underneath him and twists in a way like they haven't said exactly what the injury is. I for sprained knee immediately is what I thought. Hopefully there's nothing
They said
worse
three
than
to
that.
4 weeks, so I don't think it could be a tear. Even an
Yeah,
MCL tear, I think, would be certainly longer than 3 to 4 weeks. So yeah, I think it's
he'd
going to
be
be
gone for
something
the
like a
year
sprain.
for
Yeah,
sure. So just a sprain, which is lucky, but I was furious. I was furious. And this is one of the times where I was wishing that a guy like Stu Grimson or Jesse Boreis was still on the team to, for the very next face off, be put out there and straighten someone out. And I know that that's maybe it's thought of as petty or whatever. It angered me. That hit at
hmm
1.6 seconds left was
ridiculous.
unnecessary. and it was cheap. It was very Tom Wilson, and the Capitals are turning into that team.
They
Just
really are.
dirty throughout.
You know what it
Dirty
reminded me
throughout.
of, Ray? You're right. It's 60 minutes, but this is a game that was 6-1. The game is over. There's
It
nothing you
was
can do to affect the outcome.
over in the first.
It reminded me of the Mark. Is it Scheifele?
Shifley.
Shifley, thank you. His hit on Jake Evans. That when Jake Evans was going for an empty net goal, there was zero to be gained, and he
Yeah,
lays him out. And his response was like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Let him score?" Yeah, the game is over, dude.
yeah,
If you hit him, you hit him. If he, if KK takes a hit, he takes a hit. There's no reason to lay him out with that kind of time left, other than to try and prove a point, get some anger
send a
out.
message.
The
That was like,
at least the hit on Evans came with a 4-game suspension. And I don't know that the suspension was warranted in the KK incident because it was a clean hit. So the hit itself was not a penalty. It was a clean hit.
yeah,
The penalty was for charging. And charging comes with a different standard by which you can be penalized and fined because
yeah,
it's charging. Charging, to me, you call charging when there is an idea of intent to injure. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
point of charging is you're taking more than 2 strides toward an opponent for the purpose of hitting them. That's an intentional act.
Yes.
So I would have liked to have seen something done. I'm not surprised with the DOPS that nothing was done or said. I'm sure they probably didn't even look at it since I mean, they called it a penalty. They probably looked at it and said, "No, it's fine." But I agree. That's bush league. I mean,
It was.
uh, it, it there's just no reason for that. We often say that they can have all the rules they want unless the players are going to look out for other players' safety. It won't get better. And that was a hit that took me back to the Mark Scheifele, to a Scott Stevens, to just I can lay this guy out legally, so I'm going to.
Hmm.
It doesn't benefit me, the team, score, anything. I just want to see if I can hurt somebody. If that's what
Yeah,
the Capitals are about, and it seems to be of that seems to be the nature of what they're looking for. Okay, I mean,
yeah.
what are you gonna do? I guess.
And I was thinking about earlier in the game, Smith, chucking knuckles with Tom Wilson.
I can't believe he
When,
took that fight. I think I even texted you. I'm like, good for Smitty to be like, I'm not fighting you. I'm gonna let you take the 2, and we're gonna get a power play.
yeah, it was
And but
smart.
then he's like, I'll go with you, and I'm like, you have a broken skull, dude.
Yeah, dude,
Just
that's
say no.
dangerous.
And and,
Yeah,
and then to get whooped on. I mean, let's be honest.
yeah,
I mean, Wilson just handled him.
he
That wasn't even. I mean, that was like me fighting Tom Wilson. That was over.
yeah,
15,
yeah.
15 milliseconds into the fight was over.
He kind of ragdolled him a little bit there for sure. And it was like, and what that was when Smith baited him and drew that first penalty and kind of skated away and stuff, you could see Wilson was in the penalty box, and you saw that. I don't know
He
if
was
you
being
had
Tom
the
Wilson.
he was being Tom Wilson. He was in the penalty box and he was chirping hard, chirping very hard. I don't know. I did not have the Canes feed. I had the Capitals feed that I had to watch. Thank you very much, Center Ice, for
Sorry.
making me suffer that. Um, but they kept the camera on Wilson, and you could read his lips. You knew what he was saying. He was chirping hard, hard. And it was, and you could see they cut to Smith once he was shrugging his shoulders. What? Like, and I
Right.
thought that's the right idea.
It
That's
is
the right
because
idea. You
that
can,
drives Tom Wilson nuts.
yeah,
When
just
he's chirping you, when he's trying to get in your skin, and you're just like, whatever.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. And so he had the right idea. It was not advisable. I just
Yeah, Smitty, like,
that's
it's
dangerous.
fine being a tough guy, but dude, like, let your head heal, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, let's not
I mean,
jump right back and start you know, don't drop the mitts. Don't drop the mitts. It's too dangerous for you.
In a
When that
decided
head
game.
injury like that, yeah,
And same thing as what if Smith would have gotten injured? What if he'd hit his head on the ice, concussion or something, or Tom
yeah,
just clocked him real good? I mean,
yeah. All it would have taken, one punch. There's, you know what I mean. That's all it can take. You know what I mean. I'm not saying Wilson is a one punch guy, but that's really all that it takes, especially when you've had an injury to your cranium,
I mean,
dude.
in my former life as a paramedic, I mean, I've seen guys get hit once that really messed them up because it just hit them in the right way or the right angle or just
Yeah,
lucky punch, right? I mean, yeah, I mean that's one reason why I don't want to take the fighting out of hockey, but I'm also not there to just watch guys hit on each other.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not my
yeah,
thing, and that's part of why is I've seen people who were just took a lucky punch, well, unlucky for them, and just
yeah,
broken orbitals, jaws, all kinds of things.
yeah.
Not that it was,
Exactly.
not that the person who did was just that much stronger or anything. It happens, and I'm like, with a fractured skull, man, like just let
That's
it be.
dangerous. Just dangerous.
Take the 2 minutes, and every time Tom comes by, just chirp him about it
Yep.
because
And
Tom will take another one.
oh yeah, he's like that, right? So it was at Smitty, we're not upset with you. We still love you. We still love the game you play. We're telling you not to fight like that because we care for your health.
Yeah,
So just make sure we get that out. I still love how physical he is. He hits, he's smart. I mean, I love what he's
that's the part I
doing.
didn't like is that was not smart.
Yeah, that part
Even
wasn't.
fully healed, why fight him?
Yeah, there's
What's the
there was
point?
just no need for it. No need.
The
Uh,
the only good thing, if you can say there's an upside to Jasperi being sidelined, is the new line. So Ty Domi comes in, he's relegated to the fourth line.
Not
Folks need to get
Ty.
into the system. I said Ty.
You sure did.
I'm one
But that's
generation off.
okay.
Max.
I
I probably wouldn't take Ty Domi. I probably wouldn't want Ty Domi. I never liked him as a player. But when he went punching on that fan who fell into the penalty box, I was a Ty fan
in
that night.
Buffalo. Oh yeah,
I was
that
a Ty
was
fan that one night.
well, and
But
here we just finished say I just finished saying that we were looking for Jesse Bolerice or Stu Grimson in that Washington game. That would have been the night to have Ty Domi.
Ty, I would put Ty Domi, and Ty was like 5'9", 5'10" for those of
Oh
you
my
who
gosh.
are newer hockey fans. And Ty Domi would have went toe to toe with Wilson,
Anyone.
Reeves. He no Max Domi comes in and takes fourth line minutes
Yes.
as appropriate, right? He's got to learn the system.
Yep.
Jasperi goes out, so now the lines get shaken up again. So now we have a top line of Jarvis, Aho, and Turbo, which I love,
Isn't that
and the STD line hashtag trademark copyright Vesnikov, Trocheck, and Domi. And Domi and Svech seem to be clicking in much the way that Turbo and Aho click. And we 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 don't need an SAT line with the way the lines are configured now because these two lines are playing fantastic hockey. I mean,
great hockey.
when you look at if we go back to 3 of the last 4 games, you know, uh, so the the St. Louis game was before the injury, but 7-2 Carolina.
Yeah.
6-1 KK gets hurt at the end of the game. That doesn't count. 4-3 Tampa Bay in overtime after having played the Capitals the night before.
Yeah.
Justifiable. And then even out on with injury, KK scores as many goals in that Habs game as the Habs did. I mean, it doesn't get a lot better than that.
It was fantastic. The like I said, we when the Domi trade was made, we talked about how Coach Brindamore would juggle the lines, how he would, how he's got all this time going down the home stretch, final couple dozen games or so that we have left to find out who's going to work well with whom. Let's start with the top line, and we'll swing back to the STD line. I wanted to say it again. Sorry. Um, Jarvis is really benefiting from the uh, connection that Aho and Turbo have. And he has been out there doing, I've noticed a lot of times it's Jarvis swinging in to do the forefront of the forecheck. He's going into those places and creating
He's been the physical
space.
presence. Yeah,
Yes, which I you wouldn't have expected from him, you
not from
know?
such a young kid.
And he's so quick. That deflection goal, um, he where he drops it off and goes straight to the net on a beeline, and Turbo throws the puck just up there beautifully, kind of in a saucer. And the eye-hand coordination on that one deflection was it
Beauty.
was stellar. He's got 5 goals in the last 10 games. He is he he started very hot and cooled down a little bit, and now he's ramping up again. And
At the right time.
at the right time, and with the right line, like Jarvis, Aho, Turbo, the youth, the uh, connectivity between the lines. I mean, it's amazing. I love their effort. They are always a threat, always.
You know what it reminds me of, Ray?
Hmm.
Uh, you're a hockey fan. You've seen the movie Miracle, which
Oh
is
yeah,
one of the best hockey. The Coneheads, when they're in the office and they're talking to coach, and he asks them, and each one of them in turn is like, "Oh yeah, we just pass, shoot, and score." And I'm like, that's kind of those guys are playing. I mean, Aho and Turbo already had that, and
yeah,
Jarvis feels like he is just seamlessly becoming a part of that. That
yeah.
duo is starting to become a trio.
It's dialed in, and 3 is better than just 2, you know what I mean? Like, if Jarvis can find more ways to get the puck into Aho and Turbo's, wheelhouse and make more space for them, and it's not the same type of space that you, was being expected out of Martinook. Martinook was a more physical, aggressive forechecker trying to create actually open ice. Jarvis is creating more for Aho and Turbo through creativity and
Mhm.
puck handling, and he's just making smart decisions. So there's that. Then we move to so we talk about, Aho, Teravainen, they're great. I'm seeing the connection, and you already hinted to it, Svech and Domi playing together. Now Trocheck, of course, is the center in there, and he's I don't want to call him like the puppeteer, but he's got great hockey sense, and he can find whatever. But I noticed when Domi and Svech are on the same line, they are finding each other on the ice with some great passes that create opportunities. Domi especially. Domi has had 3 assists in the last few games, and he doesn't have to score. Those apples are nice, and he's doing a great job in settling in, and it's giving us 2 really, really solid lines that are creating scoring opportunities, are just doing great things. I love the connection of Domi and Svechnikov. That's a
I
nice find.
I do too. We were optimistic of Domi. We knew that he had shown some offensive talent
Yep,
before going to Columbus. We were hoping we would see a resurgence of that. And so far, like you said, watching him and Svechnikov, they certainly seem to click. And if that can continue, if that can build, because we're only a couple of games into this experiment at this point, I mean, look out. I mean, two legitimate lines that have serious firepower. Right now that firepower is mostly coming from Svech, but Trocheck's no slouch himself. 46 points on the year. And then if Domi can regain some of that, that former touch that he had,
that
which he
mojo.
can, because how much of that was him losing a step versus his teammates and the way that they played, not necessarily the caliber of talent in Columbus, but the way in which that talent was utilized. We often know that you can put the best people on the bad, in a bad situation, they can't produce.
Right.
Looking at
Yeah.
KK
Yeah.
as a home, as a local example. So
Exactly.
the system seems to fit to fit Domi. He has much better vision than I expected him to have this early with the new teammates, and now on his second different line since being here as they're trying things out. I'm nothing but happy so far.
I'm very happy, and Rod's done a few more changes to the lineup, and of course, this had a little bit to do with, of course, some injuries. But Derek Stepan, wow, I have really like I've really seen his veteran leadership, that being a part of that fourth line and having him out there with Lorentz and Martinook in the last game. But played a bigger role in the last few games as well, and he is. I don't want to say earning his ice time, because he's always deserved ice time. But there was this times where he was cycled out of the lineup, healthy scratch, whatever. He doesn't seem to take offense to that. He's not hurt about having to sit out games. He just comes out and produces and gives that solid effort that you want. And I think he's had a couple of goals. I mean, he's doing really well. And that's what you need when you can roll four lines and just keep doing the four lines. That's where you get this domination that we have from. I mean, we've totally disregarded the Stahl, Fost, Niederreiter line. They're steady. They're doing their job.
Mhm.
But these are the key notes. Like the fourth line are doing great things as well. This is what we want.
This is totally off the cuff. It hit me, something you just said triggered in my mind. So I just pulled up the stats since the trade deadline. Um, Marty Necas in particular.
Oh,
Um, I have offered him up as trade bait several times, not because he's not good, but for the opposite reason. Like, is he stagnant here because something's not clicking? Because the kid's got talent. Like, he needs patience. So I don't think I've ever said that I wasn't a supporter of his or didn't think he was good. I said that he should be trade bait because you would get a high return,
yeah,
because he is, we know, a better player than what he's been showing.
no question.
Since the trade deadline, Ray, points per game. I'm just going to go down points per game.
Okay.
Tuvo, 1.5. Aho, 1.17. Natchez, Svechnikov, Jarvis, 1. D'Angelo and Slavin, 0.83. Niederreiter, Chochek, Shea, Cole, Pesci, 0.67. I mean, holy smokes. I mean, I most of these guys were not at risk of being traded. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that, mentally, we have him in that position. I don't know how it affects you mentally. If you're Marty Natchez, I can understand it, because you go, it might be me, and I can see where that can be a mental block. But Aho's not
Yeah.
going anywhere. Svechnikov's not going anywhere. But
No.
since the trade deadline, it feels like a weight has been lifted off the entire org. And maybe that's the
Yeah.
camaraderie piece. Like, we don't want to see Marty go. We don't want to see, somebody else, Shea or Cole or somebody sent away. But it
Yeah.
feels like since the trade deadline that a collective weight has been lifted off these guys, and they're just getting out there. I mean, it's been, trade deadline was the 21st. They have played 6 games since then, and Tuvo has 9 points. I mean, KK before he went out, 0.75 points per game, playing playing 10 minutes a night. I mean, I posted the other day, I broke it down to points per minute. Somebody was laughing at me like, I've never seen points per minute before. I'm like, well, how else do you compare?
Yeah.
You can do points per 60. I mean,
Yeah.
you could do that, okay, but that's really just points per minute times 60. It's not really a thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said he's scoring at double the clip of guys who have second line ice time on other teams who shall not be named. I said I don't see the failure here, especially, he's not going to become the second line center this year, because There's not a need for it. He
No.
probably will be next year, and you'll see his numbers go up. But he's one example of the from top to bottom. I mean, you know, we have 5 guys over a point per game since the trade deadline. And then you have to go down. We have 15 guys over half a point a game since the trade deadline.
That's
I mean,
outstanding.
the only guys who aren't are like Stahl and Stepan. I mean, and Bayer
Yeah,
because he's been out. Like everybody else is things are firing pretty well on all cylinders. So
and as we've stated numerous times before, Stahl doesn't have to be a point producer.
yeah, I don't care if he scores.
I don't. We
Don't.
need him to keep winning those face-offs. That's the reason why the penalty kill is so good. That is the reason why we control the play as much as we do, is because we have great setters who can start us out with the puck and let us dictate the flow of the game. So Stahl doesn't have to be that guy. And like I said, the contributions are great from throughout. And to circle back to your comment about the weight being lifted, it's nice to see the engine firing up right away. It's like now once they've made it through the trade deadline and they know the situation, let's time to get down to business, boys. Now, Coach Rod said it was time to get down to business, boys, on game one. And he said it in training camp. Like talking pre-game one. That's the way he runs his game. He doesn't look too far ahead. He's always looking at the
Day
next
to
game.
day.
He's always looking at the next game. And the next game for this squad, Canes Wild. Uh, Minnesota Wild made a big splash at the trade deadline. Marc-Andre Fleury,
Flower.
I did not expect him to go there because Cam Talbot, an all-star, is their goaltender. They have an all-star goaltender who is solid. Nothing wrong with Cam Talbot. And they brought in Marc-Andre Fleury. And now, you said earlier, right now, you love Anderson and Ranta as a great combination.
I do.
I would argue with you that the Wild might have a slightly better tandem. A slightly better tandem. We have the results. Anderson is I have Anderson ahead of Fleury, but I have Talbot ahead of Ranta. With no disrespect to Ranta, again, he has played outstandingly. Let me make that perfectly clear. He has been great. I have no fear. What this amounts to is not having any fear of how the game will go or how you're going to be in net when you put in your backup goaltender. A 1A, 1B situation. And that's what the Wild have. The Wild have a 1A, 1B situation. And the way they have played of late, they are on fire. I think 7 straight wins coming into
That
this
might be
now.
right. Yeah, I
I
don't get to watch the West as much because of
they
the late games, but
Now, you know
I
what,
believe you.
Brad, it's a good thing that you mentioned that. The good news in all of this with the Canes playing the Wild, the Canes have owned the West, owned them. They've lost only 2 games against teams from the West. 2 out of all the games that they've played.
Like
That's
that.
amazing. That's amazing. Sadly, one of those 2 games was against the Wild.
Well deserved, as I recall. I remember that
It
being a
was,
tight game,
yeah. Yeah, that
as I
was a
memory serve.
that was a great contest. It was really well played. I mean, these are 2 teams that they have a similar style too. You know what I mean? Like they love to skate. They got some super talented. I mean, the Wild, I'm telling you, I would put them as a dark horse in the West come playoff time.
From a purely personal, uh, uh, petty level, I would love to see the Wild knock out the Avalanche.
Oh, I think
I would love it.
100%.
I'd be all over it.
That would be great. And I'm telling you, I mean, there's gonna be some great playoff hockey coming. I mean, there's some great
There
playoff
really
hockey
is. The
coming.
good news for the Canes, Ray, is so NHL schedule, the Hurricanes had the second toughest second half schedule in the league,
Yeah,
predominantly because of that March.
yeah,
April, April's like when you're a baseball guy.
yeah,
You get in the circle and you got 4 or 5 bats and you're swinging them to get loose. That's
yeah,
March.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
now we're dropping all those bats but one so we can come up to the plate and hit homers
yeah.
while it's a big game. Buffalo twice, the Islanders twice, Coyotes, Devils twice, uh, Red Wings, Jets, Ducks, all winnable games. Every single one of them.
Every last one of them. But there
Wild in
are kind
Colorado.
of yeah, there are trap games in there.
Oh, sure.
I look at the Ducks as a trap game. Did you see Zegras do it again? What
Around a
was
player too.
around a
He's like,
player?
I'm going to put a player in the way to make this a little harder.
A little hard. That was unbelievable. Zegras, thank you. Your talent and skill and ability and imagination, just unbelievable.
Fun
That
to watch.
goal, holy cow, so fun to watch. If you haven't seen it, find it on YouTube. But if you're a hockey fan, you've seen it and you're just shaking your head going, you stole that from Svetch. It's like I just as long as Andre
Svetch did it
doesn't,
first.
yeah,
Svetch was the
Svetch
first person to do it twice.
yeah, he was the first person to do it twice. Zegras, he looked at that and said, "Okay, I'll do it twice, but this time, see, Andre, are you going to do it around a goal? Sorry, around one of your own players as
Who
well?"
gets the lacrosse hat trick? Who's the first one to 3? That's what I really want to see. Who's the first one
You
to
know
3?
what? It was funny. Uh, Andre attempted
He
such
wanted it so
things
bad a few weeks ago.
against against the Habs. He tried it.
Oh, I missed a lot of the game. I was putting
Yeah,
my kid to bed.
he went for it there too. Couldn't scoop it up. But it was just one of those things. I'm telling you,
You know what the
the
trap game is for me? To get back.
aside from the Ducks,
Yeah,
there's an
take a stab.
um if I were to say there's a couple of ones that get in there for trap games for me. Uh I I look at Detroit, I look at Arizona, and I look at the Ducks.
I look
Those
at that
ones are the
Arizona
trap.
game
Yeah.
following. You'll have a day of rest there because you have Colorado on Saturday and you have Arizona on Monday.
Yeah.
Arizona's beating some really good teams.
They are. Yeah, they are. And there's something to be said for not having a damn thing to play for.
I mean,
You play
when you know
free.
next season is or the next 2 years from now you're in front of 5,000 people, how much worse can it get, right? Just throw the
Yeah.
puck at the net.
And no, exactly. And some of them will be playing for contracts too. So there are teams playing for playoffs. There's other playing for their careers.
The UFAs especially, no
Yes.
offense, Arizona, but the UFAs who are like, get me out of here are gonna they're gonna be, what we might call try hard. They're playing to win.
Yeah, so there's some danger games there. Buffalo has been playing a lot better lately than what they have, and they're going to miss out on the playoffs once again this year. But they are playing much better. There's and you can't overlook. I mean, New Jersey's been pasted a couple of times where their goaltending really is staggeringly awful at times. Um, but they've got some talent as well. And I think Coach Rod would probably say there's no game, there's no team that you can look past. There's no team, and he doesn't want anyone looking at the very next 60. But there's a lot of games that are not just winnable, but should win. Like
Right.
should win, and that you'll be disappointed if you lose.
Speaking of that, Rod said again in an article from yesterday it was from today, from today. Exactly that. I look at things day to day. I don't look at the season. I don't look at weeks and months. I look at day to day. That article was in reference to a TSN article called "Whistle Happy Officials Chasing Down Hurricanes" by Travis Yost. Wrote this.
Yeah.
We've said it. Hurricanes fans have said it. A lot of people said, "Oh, you guys are soft and don't know what you're talking about." This is TSN, right? TSN, no love for the Hurricanes, right?
No.
But they do have a love of hockey, right?
Yeah.
The short version, and I'll link the article along when we post these things. The Avalanche, one of the best teams in the league over the past 3 seasons, is plus 96 in penalties. They have drawn more penalties than they've
Then
taken by
they've taken.
96. The
Crazy.
Hurricanes, also one of the best teams in the league, is a negative 83, means they have committed 83 more penalties than they have taken. And to throw in kind of, a baseline of sorts, they threw in the Coyotes, who's basically break even, right? Minus 11. They've taken 11 more penalties in 3 years than they've
Yeah.
given up. The interesting thing is that Travis goes in and breaks this down by, you can look at roughings and elbowings and delay of games, like the really obvious ones that should be no
Yeah.
brainers.
Yeah.
Those are all kind of equal. Slashing is the one that's kind of in between because that's a lot more subjective, as is holding and tripping. Those are the things that the Hurricanes get called for constantly.
Yeah.
They're a negative 41 on holding calls. They're a negative 27 on hooks, negative 24 on trips. So for the for the less subjective calls, cross-checking, elbowing, boarding minors, roughing, delay a game, too many men, high sticks, they're right there in the middle. They
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
no more than anybody else. For the really subjective calls, they take, they're minus 89 on those, give or take. It's pretty close to the overall. And what Travis is saying is, and he doesn't say it in these words, but I've put in these words. I think you put in these words. We certainly have on the program. Puck possession teams. When you have the puck in your possession, you commit fewer penalties in general. Because
Yeah.
why do you need to commit a penalty? You don't need to slash, strip, hook, whatever. You have the puck.
Exactly.
Unless you're the Hurricanes, as the data shows. In which case, so many of these are offensive zone. The Hurricanes have the puck, and they're called for holding, tripping, slashing these things. It's like they have the puck. Why would they commit all these penalties
Yeah.
with the puck? And the reality is, and I think most of the Hurricanes fans who are complaining about penalties, myself included, I don't want to speak for you, but I think you'll agree. It's not that the Hurricanes are not committing these penalties. Now, the OT holding call on Jordan the other night is technically, is it a hold? Yes, technically it's a hold.
Uh,
Had they let more significant holds go throughout the entire game before that? Yes. That's the
yeah.
problem.
Brad, the timing of this article, I think, is in direct correlation to that penalty.
I would
It
not be surprised.
make no mistake. The fact that they are talking about this, like that penalty was one of the softest, one of the worst calls that yes, it was a hold with the,
By
but
the
it's in,
letter of the law only.
but
You know what I mean?
it was in overtime, and there was so many times where the Lightning were doing that exact same thing that went uncalled. And for that penalty to be called, which led to the goal that won the game in overtime, and then to see this article come out, I mean, I can't say, I guess it's
How
unfair for me to say that there's a direct correlation, but the timing is impeccable. You
his
can't deny it.
research, I don't think he was able to do this much research in a day or two. But I wonder if he decided to print it, like he was working on it and that happened and he went, I'm just gonna publish what I got.
Yeah.
And I think you and I agree. Was it a hold?
Yeah.
Technically, letter of the law is a hold.
Technically it was. Yeah.
But and let me postulate, if that's a hold and the league is going to call to the rule book and not manage games, as Tim Peel was fired for doing on a hot
Yeah.
mic, what's the over and under on holding penalties from now on? If anything at that level or more is a hold, what's the over and under on holding penalties now?
There will
60
never,
per game?
there will be
70 per game?
never, there would never be even strength hockey. There would
Would
never
you
be even
I
strength
don't know that you
hockey.
could have 5-on-4 hockey because it would all be 4-on-4
It would be 4-on-4.
all
I,
the
I
time.
guess that's the even strength. That's the even
That's the even
strength. It
strength.
would be
There would
four
be
on
no
four.
because it would be 5-on-4 for about 4 seconds, and then there's a hold, and then it's 4-on-4, and they don't play less than 4-on-4
And
during a regular game. Every game would be 4-on-4 for
it
59 and a half minutes.
exactly. And the reason why it's not like that is because you call holding when it's egregious. Egregious.
Or if it
That's when
denies a
those,
scoring opportunity, which
yeah,
was not the case.
no, no, it wasn't. But there was all that open ice in the overtime, and that's where the puck was. And you know, Stahl is making an effort for the puck, trying to jar it loose, and has a step on him, but he's got his arm around him
Pet
a
my
little bit.
dog harder
Yeah,
than that hold.
no question. It was so it was that was really frustrating. That was really frustrating.
A couple of quotes from Brendan Moore in response, because that's
Yeah,
kind of what lit, right? So this is from the North State Journal, but the interview's all over the place. Uh, Rod says, I think we own the penalties we take. I don't ever really complain too much about the amount of penalties we take. I don't like that we take that many, but it's rare that I say it was a bad call. That's what we say. Okay,
yeah,
so we're with you. I think the issue has always been we see it on the other hand. When that article came out, that kind of blew my mind. 100% there.
yeah,
Brendan Moore says we're not talking about our penalties. Jordan Stahl's penalty is a penalty in overtime. That's straight from the coach's mouth.
yeah,
I would have wanted it the other way. Now it's marginal, but if it was my guy, that's not what the issue is. The issue is to go back to all the ones, the kind that the article brought to light, meaning all the other penalties that were much more significant. I'm not saying they were significant in and of themselves,
right.
but were more significant than that penalty
Yeah,
that weren't called. And Brendan Moore is this may be the best interview Brendan Moore's given as a coach, not because of the things he says, but the way in which he says it.
mm,
So he goes from taking a $25,000 fine for rightly calling out the officiating in the
when
playoffs against the Preds to saying,
yeah,
I think, he basically says, if I go back 7 years when we weren't good, we probably have more power plays than kills. And in 3 more years, if we look back, it'll probably be even.
yeah,
He's given the league an out. He's given the league every opportunity to fix this and save face.
yeah, yeah.
And we all, does anybody think that this didn't kind of start around the time that he really started calling out the officials point blank? I mean, some people were labeled him a whiner and stuff, and then Boston's like, what, like the officiating sucks. Like, a couple weeks later, like we all agree that we've seen it.
yeah,
Brendan Moore is playing politics, in my opinion. He's being honest. He called Svechnikov his own worst enemy. Those are straight from the coach's words.
yeah.
But he's getting better. The Habs game, he takes a cross check. You can see Svetch wants to retaliate. You're like,
Oh,
oh, he's gonna take
it
two.
was visceral.
Doesn't
You could feel it.
scores a goal, and that's what Brendy wants out of these guys.
Yeah,
But the data, uh, you, you, if this was data from the Hurricanes, if this was data that we put together, if this was data from any number of sources, like I work in academia now, what I want to know when I see a study is who paid for it and how did the study get conducted to make it. This is TSN. TSN has no love for the Hurricanes. Not that they don't like us, but it's not TSN reporting on the Leafs,
yeah, yeah. 100%.
or the Habs, or the Flames. This is
Yeah,
TSN reporting on Carolina, who they probably don't even talk about unless something weird comes up. And even
yeah.
they're like, this is weird. Something's going on here. This is unusual.
Yeah, yeah. It's I
Sorry, I'll get
no,
off
the
my
playing,
soapbox.
no. It was great. I'm
I
trying to
need a ladder. Get off of this soapbox.
I'm trying to think of like to follow that, because what you say, you've just nailed everything just perfectly. How do
It
you
gets me a little
follow
hot.
that?
if you couldn't
It
tell.
no, it does. And you know, Rod's kind of playing the long game. You say that he's playing politics. I think what he's it may not be necessarily playing politics. It's just understanding the way scales work. A scale can tip from one side to the other side, but when left over the long term, it will go to even. And that's what he's saying, that there is a scale for it. I mean, when this article comes out, if Rod comes out and says, "This is what I've been saying all along. We're being," if he goes off and says we're being persecuted like all of us the fans do, if he reacts the way Hurricane fans do, it's not going to get any better.
Exactly.
In fact,
Exactly.
it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. And I mean, the penalty kill, and the Canes are going for a record. They're trying to break 90%. They were up over 90% penalty kill before the Tampa game, in which they gave up 3 of 4, right?
It's
And
just
so
amazing.
that was a significant hit to the percentage. It dropped it from like over 90 to 88%. I I would just as soon we've already proven that this team is great on the penalty kill. We don't need to keep proving it 5 or 6 times a night. And that I mean, the fact that I think the fact that the numbers are so high, we have such a high percentage because we're taking that many penalties and killing them off.
It's like everything else, right? Practice makes perfect.
Exactly.
When you know, when you're taking, 3 or 4 a night, you get really good at it over the course of a season. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
goodness
you
gracious.
really should. And like I would, yeah, and Rod said in that very article, sure, would we like it to only instead of 3 or 4, we'd like it to be 2 or none? Yeah, of course that's what we'd like. It's never going to be like that, or very rarely will we skate through a game where we don't get a penalty or take only one. Um, it's yeah, the subjectivity penalties, those are the ones that really
Mhm.
get you. They really, really get you. So,
I like this article too. I like everything about this article, if you couldn't tell. If we get a Colorado Hurricanes final,
oh,
it will probably be the best called, most fairly called final in years.
I would sure
Because
hope so.
with the penalty differential on paper that TSN says at the end of March, the Avs get all the calls and the Hurricanes take all the calls. If that happens in a final, all the controversy, warranted or not, I don't even mean it's warranted. I just mean if it were to break down that way, I think it would become a story in and of itself. I think places like TSN would jump on, like, we told you a month ago, 2 months ago, that this is the way it breaks down, right? I think with these teams, the league has no, the TSN kind of forced the league's hand, and I like it. You look like you have something smart.
I've got to put a question to you. Okay. Very many times there's a lot of teams, players, coaches who do not read the paper. They do not read articles. They know what their job is. They know what they have to do and they go about it. And because that same subjectivity that we're talking about in the penalty calls is owned by every fan. We all see the game in a different lens and from a different point of view. And so you're going to get a whole spectrum of different opinions on how certain things are. My question to you, sir, is do you believe that NHL officials, either individually or as a group, have read that article, that TSN article, and do you think it could sway? Do you believe it would sway anyone?
I do, but maybe in a little different way. I don't know if the referees necessarily have gone out and read that kind of stuff because, kind of why would you, right?
Everyone
Same as the
hates
players
the
handbook.
ref, right? Everyone
But
hates the ref.
I guarantee you that the league knows about it and that the league has people who have read it. And I guarantee you that those people have talked to the people, to the head of officiating and those guys and said, this article is out, whether we believe it to be accurate or not, it exists. And I think that I don't suddenly expect to see the Hurricanes start taking less penalties or the other teams get called. I don't think there'll be any drastic changes. But do I think that will trickle through down to the referees? It will be in the back of their minds. I do. Because
Mhm.
how could you not? If you're the league, how could you not?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If you're the league, how can you not say, even if what you say is this article came out, we disagree with it, you guys are doing a great job, it plants a seed. You know what I mean? Like even
yeah,
if that's the league's response to you as a ref, you look at it and you on April 16th are the officiating Canes Avalanche, and you go, well, the league said we're doing a great job, but the article also showed the differential. I am under a microscope whether I like it or even realize it.
yeah,
But how could you not? I mean, that's in my so I do think that this will affect officiating in some ways. Is as other things like Brendan Moore getting fined $25,000 for
yeah.
saying you're not
You
doing
guys
your
are
job. I
brutal.
mean,
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't know that will come directly from the referees, maybe, but the league is certainly aware. I think no matter what the league does, even if they tell their officials and back them 100% and say you're doing a great job, don't change. I think that plants a seed, and the officials go, especially when it's those teams, if they're competing against each other principally, those refs have to be like, I got to get this one right. I got to be better than I know. I know I do a good job. I got to do a great job on this one. Or I know I do a great job. I got to be perfect on this one. I think that does come up.
there. Here's something, and I'm going to state an opinion. This is not a hot take, okay? This is not. This is really kind of on the captain obvious, and I think I can speak for most sporting fans, okay? Whether it's hockey, football, basketball, soccer, uh, in all sports, okay? In all sports. The worst part of any competition is when sorry, let me not do it from the worst, let me do it from the best. The best part of every game is when you do not recognize the refs.
Mhm.
When the refs go completely unnoticed, when there's no spotlight on them, making those are the games that are always the best because the officials have called the game right. There's nothing glaring. They're not, in football, there's a couple of refs that are accused of wanting more face time than the quarterbacks. You see that all the time in in every game. Officiating is so hard. I've got people close to me in my life who are refs and have been refs in hockey. I don't know how anyone can handle the abuse that they get on a nightly basis. No one is going to be happy. It's a job in a sport where you're gonna you're gonna piss someone off. Pardon my language. You just are. No
Mhm.
matter who you make the call, someone's going to be angry with you and think you're a doofus and open your dang eyes and what where was that? It's the most difficult job. But you notice the games the best when you don't notice the refs at all. And
Absolutely.
that is what I hope for every game, every sport that I'm looking for. We're seeing UNC and Duke playing tonight in basketball. I'm going to cross pollinate again in basketball. We're coming to the end of March Madness, so this is what I do. Villanova and Kansas. I just want to see great basketball. I don't want the officials making terrible calls. I mean, it's been funny.
And you're right, it happened. So just to interject,
Yeah.
as somebody who went to NC State, the NC State women's team
Yes.
could not draw a call in the last, in the last 10 minutes of their double overtime loss to UConn, which was a home game, which is a whole nother
It was a
whole
home
other
game.
show.
Yeah, that's another
But
one, but it was a
but you're
home
right.
game.
It's and in hockey in particular, football, there's what, 10 minutes of action per 60 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Basketball's guys running up and down the floor, taking time, setting up shots. Hockey is way faster than all of those. I
Super
get that why
fast.
people miss calls. What I don't get is when a referee sees something like the Jordan Stahl thing and goes, "Oh, that's a hold," and you're like, "But he didn't really even slow him down." Like, uh, the Lightning player turned around because that was just more beneficial to him cutting back in to make the play, not because Jordan was pulling on him.
Yeah.
So how do you call that? And then I watch a lot of YouTube highlights and things because I don't get to watch games live, and I watch a lot of the compilation videos. And the number of times I see a referee standing there looking at a play, I can see the penalty. A third of the arena,
Everyone sees it.
everybody sees it. The referee's looking right there, and there's no call. And I'm like, how do you not call? Like it was egregious. I mean,
Yeah.
and phew, we could- we could talk about it. Tim Peel, as much as he frustrated me as a Hurricanes fan for years, he's actually a very nice person on Twitter. I'm not surprised by that at all.
Yeah.
Uh, he said something one day on Twitter about making a podcast. No offense, Ray, but I said if you need a co-host, let me know. I said because having butting heads it makes for good radio. And,
Yes.
and I told him I straight out. I said I've never agreed with you once in your life. And he actually messaged me back and was like, "That's pretty funny."
Oh, wow. That's
I said,
awesome.
I said it would make for a great podcast radio because I've never agreed with you once in your life. And he had to be like, okay, that's pretty funny. Uh,
That's stepping up big.
before we go though, we have to touch on something here. Um,
Yeah.
Keith Yandle of the Flyers, uh, he is sitting at 989 consecutive games played. It looks like he is going to be a scratch and is not going to get to 1,000 games played in a row. Not games played, but in a row. Uh, the SB Nation, BroadStreetHockey.com, if you're familiar with them, uh, maybe not.
Yeah.
Uh, they're a little spit and chicletsy. I would, they're
Yeah,
more of
yeah.
that vein. Their quote was, if you remember, the Flyers had dogs come out to do like a dog day at the arena, and the
Right.
dog pooped on the ice. And they said the Flyers have already had one on ice pooping incident this season. So basically this shouldn't be worse than that. So they want him to play. I get both sides. It would be cool if he got to 1,000 games, straight as an Ironman. By the same token, in my mind, if I'm being honest, the Flyers game that was canceled, he would have missed against Carolina early in the season. That was postponed, excuse me, not canceled. But the Flyers Hurricanes game that was postponed, he would have missed, which would have ended his streak before breaking the record. Even though the Flyers actually had guys coming back off of COVID protocol. So they had more players available than the previous game, which they were told to play. I
Yeah.
think the league, I think I 100%, I mean, this is a conspiracy theory insofar as it doesn't affect me other than the game wasn't played. I 100% believe that the league did that to keep that streak alive. And I get, hey, it's great for him. It would be great if he got to 1,000 games. It's kind of a good story for the league. But at the same time, if he's not one of your top six defensemen, don't play him. I mean, if I'm looking at both sides, because it's the league has had issues before with teams missing the playoff and they sit their best players. They don't want to get hurt,
Yeah.
and so that has affected the Hurricanes, for example, negatively in the past because the opponents they needed to lose were winning games they probably would have lost because teams were sitting players, right?
Yeah.
So you play your best lineup, and if the Flyers are playing their best lineup, he's not in it, then he's not in it. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, I
Uh
could see it from both sides. That's all I really wanted to say.
I do see it from both sides. As when you step on the ice, you I always want to see every team putting their best effort forward for the integrity of the game.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
And it's been on very rare occasions where Yandle was not part of that equation, part of being the best team you can put on the ice. If
It's
the
been since
coaches
2009. Not to interrupt you, but 2009, that's amazing, Ray.
his this is the part that makes it difficult for me. Uh Hockey is such a difficult game to not be injured in, and to survive for 989 games, to be on the ice every night, reliability, strength, toughness, tenacious. That's what you love about hockey players. And for him purposely being a healthy scratch, I think that is, of all of the reasons for him to miss a game, that is the worst, because it is a subjective decision. Is the guy that takes Yandle's place on the ice going to play better than Yandle would have on that
Right.
night?
Does it
You're
matter?
never going to
No.
know. You're never going to know. And so for me, instinctively, you texted me this morning before the broadcast, and I was floored. And my immediate gut reaction was, that's not right. That's not right.
If he was a Hurricanes player as a
I
fan,
would be
I
furious.
would be furious. Like your your season's been a dumpster fire of sorts.
Oh,
You have a chance to kind of go toward the end of the season. I mean, 11 more games. That's this month for them, right? Right at the end of the
yep.
season, he would hit 1,000 games. Why do you not? Why do you not let him make it, even if it's self-serving? Meaning, you just stick him in the lineup. He's not going to do that much worse than whoever you replace him with.
No,
Either way, like I said, it's subjective, but we're not talking about they have like a superstar in the waiting, right?
right.
And then for his 1,000th game, you sell T-shirts and hats and commemorative posters, and you fill the barn, and you. So even if it's self-serving, like why don't you do that? If I'm the owner, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, you're going to put him in because we're going to sell $1 million worth of merchandise. Like
Yeah, and Yandle hasn't been with the Flyers forever. So in one
just a
sense, the
year, yeah.
Flyer, yeah. So the Flyers, I mean, he's a journeyman, right? He's been kind of like he played. When I think of Yandle, I think of Phoenix, the
Mhm.
Coyotes. That's what I think. But he's been in a few other teams and stuff. The Flyers don't owe him anything. And looking at a purely uh, for the Flyers team best interest, I understand sitting him, because you might have guys in your farm team that you're already wanting to see you're already looking ahead for next year. You're already trying to see, where are we going to be? What do we have in the
Mhm.
farm, on the farm team to bring up and stuff, right? To sit them in, because you got to know where you're going when you're headed into, after, as you put it very aptly, a dumpster fire of a season. You traded away Giroux, a Philadelphia Flyer. I
His
mean,
whole life,
his whole life.
whole
You
career.
traded him away. What is bringing anyone to the rink a chance like this? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's the other side. You're either looking ahead, and that's clearly what the coach is doing, looking ahead. And you know what? He might be there for his own job too, to always be saying, "Look, I'm making these decisions because I want what's best for the Flyers." This has been a terrible. There's a self-servingness in that as well,
Hmm.
for the coach
You're right.
protecting his own job,
You're right.
always looking for the best thing. I it's 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 awful for Yandle to not get there.
Yeah. This
He
has to
will
be his
be.
last season, I would think.
Yeah, I can't imagine
I
it
can't
being
imagine
much
he's
longer.
going anywhere else. I mean, and
No,
even if you miss a game, it's like you're starting a new streak at that point.
no, yeah, no, you're not going
But
for another
for somebody who's
1,000 or
had the
whatever.
career he's had, Phoenix, New York, Florida. I mean, I hate to see anybody go out like that. You know?
I would love to see this is a feel good story that's being squelched, you know?
Yeah,
You could look forward to this, and like you put so accurately, this is something that the Flyers could be drawing the spotlight to them for good reasons and not what it's been most of the season. Terrible. I can't. I understand the other side of it, but it still ticks me off. I would really love to see him. I would really love to see him do it. And
it would be
maybe
nice.
that's his decision now. And there's still lots of time before the game. Maybe he changes back.
Or the owner calls him, or I mean, yeah.
I mean,
If
who's to say?
if I'm the owner, I would say, look, as a coach, and you made a great point. I didn't think of that. As a coach, I'd say your job isn't on the line because of playing Yandle or not.
Yeah,
It might be because of the season we've had.
yeah. It might. It
No, but
might
it's
be.
like, but we are going to fill this barn on Yandle's 1,000th game, night. And you know, I
People are going to want to celebrate that.
yeah,
People that love hockey. That's the thing. It's not even a Flyer thing.
it's a
It's
national story.
it's a great story. It's one of the best stories about hockey to see someone who has been his time. I Yandle, nothing but respect for him. Nothing but respect. He's been he plays clean. He's a tough tough defenseman. He was solid for much of his career. You know what I mean? Clearly, the coach doesn't think he's doing as well now. Either way, it stinks. It stinks. We gotta come up with something a better way to end the show on, end the podcast on. Let's take a
I
quick
saw
look
the
at.
arena when I drove through Philadelphia on the way back from DC.
Oh,
Is
did
that
you?
positive? Yeah. I was like, hey,
It's
go
okay.
Flyers. I
It's okay.
had I thought about it ahead of time, I would have rearranged my work schedule. I could have been there for the Hurricanes Flyers. I'm sorry, we're on the Flyers. I could have been there for Hurricanes Capitals in Washington when we just spanked them.
Oh man.
But the way the trip was laid out, it would have been 2 extra days. And I was like, I had the days off, but my wife's working, and we can't call her, an employer at you know
Do you
Sunday night
remember
and
the
say, by
tweet?
the way, we're taking 2 extra days off. But I would have loved to have been in that building.
Please, you remember the message that I sent you in the middle of the game was, please tell me that you are still in Washington enjoying this game. I
I was
wanted you to be there so bad to enjoy it. It was it was my first thought.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, he was
We drove
there.
home Sunday
Please.
night and got home about 3, maybe 2:30 a.m. Because we spent the day. Here, positive note. The Udvar-Hazy Center, which is part of the Smithsonian, indeed, it's actually in Chantilly, Virginia. Ray knows about this. If you're ever listening, if you're listening and you or your spouse or nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, brothers, dads, whoever is into airplanes, the Udvar-Hazy Center, it's in Chantilly, Virginia. It's part of the Smithsonian. $15 to park, free to get in because it's the Smithsonian. It's just three big airplane hangars connected to each other,
Oh,
full of planes, just full of Space Shuttle Discovery. The Space Shuttle
yes.
Discovery is parked there. I, the SR-71 Blackbird is like the plane that made me want to become a pilot way back in the day. Something I would still
Wow.
love to do and get my private pilot's license. There's an
Yeah,
SR-71 parked right in the middle. You can't touch it, but I got pretty long arms and I can almost touch it if I didn't think they'd throw me out. It's like right
man.
there. My dad flew Hueys in the army. There's a Huey there, Cobra attack gunship. There's the engine from a Harrier jump jet, which for those of you who don't know can take off vertically.
Vertically,
The, the
yes.
the British Navy uses those to take off from ships vertically, and then
Yeah,
the nozzle rotates for forward flight. It's just a hangar full of some of the Concorde. They have an original Concorde, Boeing
that's amazing.
707. Can you tell how many planes? It's obviously how many
Yeah,
planes, right?
clearly,
It's like
yeah.
200 planes in this giant hangar. It is the single coolest museum I've ever been to.
Uh, hey, I got
It was
okay, and
amazing.
I'm gonna hit you with a question.
Yes.
Do they have a model of the type of plane that can fly into hurricanes? Look at me turning it back to hurricanes.
So, oh, they.
What?
I'm trying to think. They use oh gosh, I think they use modified C-130s for those. I don't remember seeing a C-130 in there,
Okay.
but I would have to look. The list of planes is online. You can go and just it gives you a whole list.
Oh, there you go.
Um, if you're into planes, especially military aircraft, uh, Hellcats and Spitfires and Corsairs, and I mean,
Wow.
fully restored. They're simulators. We didn't get to do that because my youngest is a little too young. Simulators where you can get into a simulator, a full motion, 6-axis simulator, and do flights. I mean,
Wow.
our trip to DC was awesome. The Cherry Blossom Festival happens every March. It was
Yeah.
gorgeous. They also had a big kite festival going on. My son had a great time with my folks we haven't seen in a long time because of COVID. Uh, Wonderful experience, top to bottom. Washington D.C. Is a really cool place to visit. The only downside is there's so much to see. You could
Agreed.
spend 2 full weeks in Washington and not hit every museum and see everything.
I
But the
only got to
Udvar-Hazy Center in Chantilly, if you're in Raleigh, it's probably a good 5-hour trip for you. I'm guessing,
yeah,
maybe a little less. Um, you could easily drive up one night, go there the next day, drive home, and it would be 100% worth it if you're into
well
planes.
worth your
It is,
time.
as somebody who my master's degree is in heritage studies. It included a museum studies component, so I actually have gone through. I was able to curate an exhibit for a museum with Nancy Schoen, who's a world-renowned artist. If you've ever heard of the Make Way for Ducklings statues in the Boston Common, sorry,
Yeah.
Boston Public Garden, she's the one who made those. Nancy and I
Wow.
are friendly. She knows who I am. I get Christmas cards from her.
Wow.
Having done those things, this museum is so cool. I could spend days there if I was by myself just studying stuff. But how about that? Is that a better ending than keeping going?
That's outstanding. It's like you can, and all of our listeners know where the intelligence in this podcast comes from. It comes from you, because man,
Negative,
you are an
Ghost Rider.
You're an encyclopedia. That was awesome. That was awesome, and the excitement and enthusiasm. It almost reached the enthusiasm that you have for the Hurricanes.
You know,
Almost, it was right there.
we're gonna tie this into something else. Uh,
Sure.
April is Autism Awareness Month. As
Hmm.
you know, I have a family member who is neurodivergent. Is the term that we prefer. Autism is the diagnosis. Uh, Autism Speaks is the big campaign that everybody kind of knows about. Uh, we are a family who does not agree with their stance on things. Autistic people are not broken and need to be fixed. Autism is what gives them the personality they have. That's a whole nother show.
Yep.
But to tie that all in, you can tell that I myself have traces of that because when I geek out on something like planes or hockey, I tend to get very into it very quickly. So to tie that all in, so yeah, for anybody who I know we have several people who listen to the show who have family members who are neurodivergent. If and I know somebody who recently I think got a diagnosis who listens to the show. I'm not going to name any names. That's for them to do, not for me to do. But just know, like, if you have questions about neurodiversity, reach out to me on Twitter. I'm happy to talk privately with people. But know that you're not alone. It's not, when uh, it it's just part of who they are, right? It's
Yeah.
just that's just you know no different than my beard is gray. It's just part of who I am, right? It's if you get an autism diagnosis for yourself or a family member, nothing has changed. You're the same person you were the day before as you were the day after a diagnosis. Nothing has changed other than the resources that are available to you are now there, and there are people out there who would love to help. So I
It
will throw that in
fits
as well.
it fits perfect with something that we say every podcast. Hockey is for everyone.
Everyone.
Hockey is for everyone.
I love the Hurricanes have autism bags. I'm going to throw that in there too. They have kits. So if you have somebody who's neurodivergent in your family, want to go to a hockey game, reach out to the Hurricanes. They have sensory bags and quiet
Wow.
spaces within the arena. They've been doing this for at least 3 or 4 years, as we have taken advantage of them before. So it's one of the other great things that the Hurricanes do. So if
Magnificent.
you want to go to a game but sensory overload is a potential problem, the Hurricanes can help out there.
That's see, more reasons to love this team. More reasons to love this franchise. Um, very quickly before we go, tonight's contest, we always make a little prediction just for fun. What are you looking at? What are you expecting?
Do we know who the starter is? Do we know
The
Albert Fleury?
projected starter was the Flower himself. That was the
Uh,
projected starter, and
2-1 Canes.
Anderson
2-1.
2-1
It's
Canes.
gonna be both goalies are just gonna feed off each other. This is gonna be a low scoring affair.
It's gonna be a great game to watch. I saw this as I saw this as a 3-2 overtime decision. I'm gonna go with the Hurricanes. Of course, I would want to go with the Hurricanes.
Obviously,
I will
always.
not. I will not be surprised if that's reversed. This is going to be an outstanding contest. An outstanding contest. Check it out. I'm March Madness. The games are happening at the same time, so I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. I will not be watching the
If
Hurricanes
attendance is
game
light, it is
exclusively.
not because of it is nothing about the Hurricanes. It is because all the state fans are there and all the Carolina Duke fans are not.
Exactly. 100% exactly. This is going to be interesting. And every TV in the concourse, every TV in the concourse will be featuring that game. Who who do you think wins tonight, by the
The
way?
Hurricanes.
Okay,
I
outside of the Hurricanes. I'm going to put you on the spot.
my
I know you don't like either
we just saw
team.
my sister-in-law. She went to Carolina, as did my brother. When asked, I said I'm a diehard NC State ABCD fan. Anybody but Carolina and Duke.
Yeah,
So if
there you
there is a
go.
way that they could both lose, is that an option?
Well, I guess there is in the end if you want, one of them can lose one game and then the one of them loses the national championship. They can both lose.
If I have to pick, honestly, Ray, my brother passed a couple years ago. As a Carolina grad, if there has to be a winner tonight, I go with Carolina for him.
I'm a Heels fan, have always been a Heels fan, um, since Jordan, Vince Carter, some of my favorite players in the
My
world.
brother
Vince
knew all those
Carter.
guys.
Oh man.
He was a student cafeteria manager in 1982. If that
Oh
rings any
man.
bells,
Yeah, it sure does.
in
It sure
Granville
does.
Towers. Yep.
I would love to see the Heels win this game. Um, I wonder if they're playing with house money, right? Because no one expected them to be there. Duke's final weekend with Coach K. The potential is there. Uh, I'm pulling for the Heels. I want the Heels
Yeah.
to win,
Go
and
Nova.
I want go Nova, especially go Nova. I love that team, but that's another podcast altogether.
We need a
We've
basketball podcast, right?
we sure do. We sure do. Look, we've covered the Hurricanes. We've covered March Madness. Um, we've covered the referees, the
New
officials
lines.
situation,
Yeah.
new lines.
Penalty.
We've even brought in autism. Hockey is for everyone. What more is there to say?
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.